Welcome, everyone. It's the 32nd floor here of Not in Hall of Fame studio, towers, whichever we want. Okay, it's my apartment. Whatever. I mean, like, were you really going to come here anyway and take a picture of it? No, I guess you weren't. But if you are, and if you do want to come here, before you do that, you got to pay a fee. What's the fee? You're going to go to www.theusahof.com and you're going to vote. You're going to vote on who you think should be the greatest athlete in the United States in their past history. Athletes, coaches, contributors. And it's an amazing thing. We're recording this in September of 2024. It's democracy, baby, a real democracy. There's no electoral college. What you actually sort of put through here will be who gets in. And
That's good.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, I've got to bring it up because I'm doing this with somebody who helped as one of the voters to decide who you can vote on the voting body. America's favorite sports historian and the whiz kid of, I forget what radio station because I'm not there, but somewhere in Long Island.
Long Island News Radio.
Long Island News Radio. Okay, awesome. Vinny Lospinuso, and it's been a long time since we've done a show, and we're looking at somebody that we've actually spoken with briefly, both of us. But I don't think that's sort of why you want to do this. We're looking at offensive lineman Richmond Webb, who is, as we're doing this, the Pro Football Hall of Fame has just put out their preliminary list. Richmond's here again. And he is someone who, for whatever reason, and maybe we can look into that today, has never even made it to the semifinals. But you're going to tell us why you think he should go all the way.
Well, yeah, but before I do, the voters talk a big game and don't do anything about it.
Whoa. Well, let's not bash the voters, because some of the voters have a big problem with other voters.
That is true. It's just my own. It's more so as my own.
And that's fine. And that's fine. But like there's a lot of great people who are voters, and everyone's got different opinions. So let's maybe try and figure out how we can sort of alter some of their opinions by talking about somebody who at least deserves a bigger, deeper look in the room.
Okay, so Richmond Webb is someone who went to college at Texas A&M in the 1990 NFL draft, and they were looking for someone to protect the blind side, to be the main protector of that Miami Dolphins line. So they take him. He was the highest drafted lineman in that draft. That was the same draft that had the likes of 6 other guys that made the Hall of Fame, such as Cortez Kennedy, Junior Seau, and of course Emmitt Smith, and a few other players. But yeah, Richmond Webb was the focal point of that Miami Dolphins offensive line. He was considered one of the best players of the 1990s, being named to numerous all-decade teams in the 1990s, 4-time All-Pros, 7 straight Pro Bowls. Like, people talk about how great Marino is, and we get it. He's the guy that didn't win a championship that's socially acceptable to talk about it. It's my own 2 cents there. But either way, a big reason why the Dolphins were so good wasn't just because of Marino, is because you had guys like a Dwight Stevenson and like Richmond Webb who held him up, who kept him stable in the pocket.
There's a couple other things too that Webb has actually made history in terms for Miami. 7 Pro Bowls, but he's the first and only Dolphin to do that 7 years in a row. I think what really impresses me a lot, and I didn't have time, unfortunately, and you might know the answer off the top of your head, because if anyone doesn't know the answer off the top of the head, it's nobody. But it'd be you. But Webb, in his rookie year, won the UPI Offensive Rookie of the Year, which is pretty goddamn impressive because that does not happen with linemen. I believe
No, you
he's
never see it.
also,
It's always the offensive positional players. You
yeah.
never see tackles get it because they're often not
Oh, of
really talked
course.
about. And yeah, and he was a Pro Bowl that year as a tackle, and
Well,
it would
but
be that way. He
there's
was
more to
so
that
consistent.
rookie year though, Ben. Like he also won Sporting News Rookie of the Year
Yeah,
and the AP, which generally they're not looking at offensive linemen. He still finished fourth.
that's not bad for a lineman. Like you had to really get their attention if that was the case, and
Mhm.
that's a fact. He definitely got their attention.
The other thing too, when I look at his career, you mentioned it, four-time All Pro, and I imagine when you say All Pro, you're looking at AP
I
All
look
Pro
at everything.
and
I look
everything.
at
Okay.
everything. That's for AP in particular, but he was also a second team All Pro for UPI in his rookie year. So we were talking about how great his rookie year was. Well, in his rookie year, he was a second team All Conference by the UPI.
Mhm, mhm. The other also too, when you mentioned All Decade, so there's four All Decade tackles. Uh, him, he's one of them. The others being, have this here, Willie
I'll tell you right
Rowe.
now, the other ones being, sorry, Willie Rofe, Tony
Mhm.
Baselli, and Gary Zimmerman.
And all three of them are inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So we have a man who's in that category. Also, too, and I'm looking at those four consecutive Pro Bowl years. It's not Pro Bowl, sorry, first team All Pro, and specifically for my purpose. I know you count them all, but I'm looking at AP. So
Fine.
92, 93, 94, 95. First team, second team, first team, second team. Combined on Pro Football Reference, approximate value of 62.
Yeah. I'm looking right here. His PFR Hall of Fame monitor, by the way, in case you're curious, is
I am.
21. And
Mhm.
you look at these other guys that are around that, the ones just below that. Jason Peters, who's going to make it. Tyron Smith, who's still active. Ralph Neely, who knows about the Cowboys. Joe Jacoby, who has been considered a lot. And Richmond Webb's right there. Just below him is Trent Williams, who I think will easily make it with just the number of
Oh
Pro
yeah,
Bowls
yeah,
that
yeah.
he has.
Yeah, I right now I've got Trent Williams as the highest active offensive lineman for a Pro Football Hall of Fame consideration. So
Yeah.
I was,
Now,
oh, go ahead.
but
Sorry.
his career looks even better if you factor in the weighted approximate value. The only guy higher than him that's not in is Jim Tyre, and that's a whole can of worms as to why he's not in.
Right, and
But
if you
he,
don't know why, then just it's a long story short. He basically, well, we think with what we know now, probably CTE, and he, well,
no, CTE. I blame CTE more than anything.
we don't know for sure, but because that was those weren't were three letters we put together back then. But he offed his wife and himself.
Wasn't something in the subconscious until Mike Webster died.
Yeah.
But if you look at Richmond Webb among tackles post 1955, he is seventh all time. The seventh all time with 102 weighted approximate value. Gary's the only look at Walter Jones is below him, Forrest Gregg is below him, Jonathan Ogden is below him, and Art Shell is below him.
I'm going to
That's
throw
pretty
some.
impressive.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and I am very big on that train. I think there's two things that work against him, three maybe, and I want your take on all three of these. The first, and I was looking at this something I looked at this morning, and I never really thought of it, and I think that's a stupid thing. He doesn't. One school of thought is that he doesn't get enough credit because Marino was so good in his quick release.
Yeah, Marino has talked
A,
about. I think so, and I'll put my 2 cents here.
yeah, that's what I want.
I think people fillet Marino way too much. The reason why I have beef about Marino is because I think he's the most socially acceptable quarterback that didn't win a championship that's socially acceptable to talk about nonstop. Whenever someone breaks a record, people get angry about it because you must protect Marino at all costs because he made everyone better because their eye test told them that. Well, in reality, it takes way more than just one person to win a game. And Marino, yeah, he's going to still be boastful about himself, but he would tell you that Richmond Webb's a big reason why, but I guess his voice doesn't matter and he's just biased or whatever. But yeah, they credit Marino a lot, and because he's an offensive lineman, Richmond Webb, they don't look at him as much. And
Yeah.
what are the other schools of thought?
Well, well, just adding on to this, yeah, it's great to have your quick release. It's also great that you have the time to do it.
Yeah.
And because I was just watching a lot of older Dolphins games, and Marino's quick release is certainly evidently there. And it was a beautiful thing to watch. And there's so few quarterbacks since who can even touch that. Saying that, his mobility on the run was obviously lacking.
Oh yeah, it wasn't that great when it came
Right.
to
That was
mobility.
that. So, I mean, the job that Webb and Stevenson, who you mentioned earlier at the center, did was certainly so important to that. So that's sort of like one thing that's I think sort of works against him,
Hmm.
which I think you and I would both agree that's sort of BS. We're
Of
not
course.
fans of that theory. Here's the second, and it can be argued, and I think maybe Richmond himself might even go with that. He may not even be the best Dolphin lineman who's not inducted. And you know who I'm talking
Yeah.
about, Bob Kuchenberg.
Well, to be fair, Bob Kuchenberg is in the senior abyss, and Webb is in the moderns. And his time's coming up for Webb. He has a few more years left
Wait,
of modern eligibility, and then and who the hell knows? And you asked about how I feel like they treated Kuchenberg, and their family will be the first one to tell you it wasn't exactly the best. And
well, Bob also too was not exactly, and this will tie in with my third thing. Bob wasn't exactly known for being overly media friendly. Richmond doesn't have that problem though. You don't hear
yeah,
anyone saying anything bad about Richmond Webb.
no, and I granted, I think not being media friendly is, lack of a better term, complete bullshit, but it is what it is. Webb doesn't really have that. He's been a lot more vocal recently. He's been very, very cool, calm, and collected, very, very humble. Something like that. But I think there might be an even bigger reason as to why he's not in that has nothing to do with any of that. I think it's because a lot of his career, in terms of his dominance, was like in the first 7 seasons of his career. Like he set team records for his starts, but after near the end of his career, he was getting injured a lot because eventually that's going to wear down your body. And eventually he went on to he played 2 seasons with the Bengals, but
Mm-hmm.
even then, like he wasn't the same player at all because he was in very, very injury prone. And
Right,
the
but
Hall historically has tend to not look very favorably towards people whose careers could have been better than they were because of injuries. And I
we
think
just talked about Tony Baselli, and he's in.
yes, but the difference is that Tony Baselli was still seen as like the best lineman in a somewhat shorter career because Webb has longer seasons and then longer years. Because with
Okay.
Baselli, he was injury and then his career over
Yeah,
immediately like that.
and I like Baselli. I like Baselli, but I mean, if you were sort of a GM in hindsight, obviously that can't exist. But a GM in hindsight, and you get to say, okay, I know what Richmond Webb's going to do over his career. I know what Tony Baselli's going to do over his career because I've got this weird little crystal ball. Aren't we all taking Richmond Webb?
Of course, we're taking Mitch and Webb because he was more consistent.
Right.
He was more consistent. I think to be fair with Baselli, I
And it's
think
not a shot at
part of the
Baselli.
reason. No,
Yeah.
I personally think the reason why Baselli probably also made a little far. Now, granted, the wait that he had as a finalist, just laying in there, took way too long. I think a reason as to why he probably got the nod over Webb is probably because when Baselli's injuries happened, it came rather quickly. Where with Webb, it was more prolonged several years of numerous injury riddled seasons, and that might have hurt it too.
Mm-hmm.
I think. I'm just I'm just asking questions. I have no idea. I'm just thinking of
No,
ideas.
yeah, no, exactly. And I'll throw the third thing here too. An interesting person who sort of jumped up, I don't want to say out of nowhere, but it certainly helped. Willie Anderson, and a lot of that is sort of like based on the individual stats that people are saying, but it's not necessarily validated of how many sacks he allowed. If
Yeah, it's a
someone
little
were to go
shaky.
back, well, yeah, but if someone were to go back and do that for Richmond, now granted, again, you've got this amazing quarterback who he's gonna get rid of that ball. He may not be able to run with it that well, but he's not a mistake prone QB. Willie didn't necessarily have that luxury. I mean, he had
No,
some good QBs, but he didn't have Marino. I
no, he
wonder, I wonder if someone were to do the same thing, what would we see? What would the results be? And then would that help propel? Because at this point, as we know, it's going to be a real tough road for him because he's first got to make it that 25, and then he's got to now overtake Willie. Like, or
it's
maybe
gonna
the
be very, very difficult because Willie's in their collective memory, and
well, best thing that could happen almost for Richmond is for Willie to get in, wouldn't you think?
I would say so, but it would have to happen quickly. I think Richmond's best chance right now is he should not be thinking of Canton because no offense to any of the voters, but if you're kind of looking, big picture here, you can't exactly wait on them to do what you'd want them to do. So I think really what I think Richmond needs to do, and he's been doing a good job at this, and the base has been doing a good job at this, getting him into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame.
Okay. I was wondering where you're going to go with that because I think he's already in the Dolphins Ring of Honor.
Yeah, he's already in that, but don't forget he grew up in Dallas. He went to
Yeah,
school
yeah.
at Roosevelt High School. He went to Texas A&M. He is very, very Texas. The only thing that's not Texas about him is that he played for the Dolphins and he's been his most of his adult life in Florida, I believe, but he's from Texas. I don't know if I did vote for him for Texas, but either way, he's there.
Hey,
I think he has to be in that.
you're on the Texas. You're on that board.
No, but you can easily vote whoever you
Oh,
want.
okay. Okay.
Like the reason why I
You're on,
got
the reason I asked is for people who are just wondering, like they're like collectively. Vinny is on a couple of boards for this stuff, so
yeah, the main one I'm on in terms of like major halls is the Pennsylvania Sports Hall of Fame. That's the main one I'm a part of. Richmond has no ties to Pennsylvania, so he would not be eligible for that.
I don't think anyone was making that leap, but okay.
Also, I should say this in case um anyone from the Texas Sports Hall of Fame is watching, induct him. Please, please induct him. You have some with these all pros, and I just the fact that his approximate value is that high, and his whether it's weighted or regular is that high. That should be enough of a reason, in my opinion, to put him in the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, especially as someone who represented your state, someone who
I
represented
think
a
he
high
still lives in
school.
Texas.
Oh, either way, like Texas, Florida, either way, he is a Texas guy. That's what he is. He is a Texas guy.
Okay. Oh, Vin, I really like this one. All right. So
Yeah.
with that, we again encourage you to vote at www.theusahof. And wherever you are, wherever you may be, make this a fantastic day because it never comes again unless Back to the Future is correct. There's a play of Back to the Future playing right across from me soon. It's like, man, I don't know that I want to watch that as a musical, but that's another story for another time.
What?
Have
There's
a
a
good one.
musical over there. Over there.
Yeah, I live right across from a theater.
Oh, thank.
When you come and visit me, I'll show you. All right.
Okay,
Take
that
care,
sounds cool.
everybody.